The time has come. The project that has been on my mind for the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years maybe even, and was planted in my mind over 4 years ago is finally here. This is Make It to Midnight, Episode 1, hosted by me, JP Hovey. If you don't know me, I live in Nashville, Tennessee right now, originally from Greenville, South Carolina. And after college, I bounced to Texas, to Florida, to Nashville. So now I've been here for the last 3.5-ish years. I'm fired up about this show because it allows me to kind of go to a little bit different place than my normal content that I do put out on the internet, which is mainly joking, super lighthearted, a lot of Gamecock football, tennis, all these different things. And Make It to Midnight will be a little bit more deeper, but also still fun because I pull inspiration from a lot of different places. It could be an animated movie. It could be a serious movie. It could be a book. It could be a poem I read. It could be anything. It could be something I heard from somebody in passing, something that has helped me or touched me in a certain way where I want to share it. And that's basically what Make It to Midnight will be. I can put these things out there, share what's inspired me. Hopefully it could inspire you in whatever you're doing, because that's the number one goal of life that I have for myself, is making an impact. And I want people to be able to come to this page when they need a little bit of motivation or feel like they need somebody to relate to. That's the goal. So the initial idea came from when I was living in Florida and I had started my own videography business. I left my job at IMG Academy and was trying to make a name for myself down in Florida, where a place where I didn't know anybody. During that time, it was tough. I was lonely. I wasn't making barely any money. I didn't know anybody. It was just a low moment. I wasn't sure how it was going to happen. Naturally, I'm a optimistic person. But if you get told no enough, it can kind of beat you down. And as I was talking to my dad about everything that was going on in my life, and I was just down in the dumps, I didn't know if I could keep on doing this, if it was ever going to work. He dropped some knowledge on me. He dropped some bars. He said, son, all you got to focus on is making it to midnight each day. Because once that clock hits midnight, it's a new day, which could hold a new opportunity. And legitimately, ever since he spoke those words to me, they've been stuck in my head for a reason I didn't even know, other than obviously it touched me. But I was definitely not thinking at that time, oh, this would be a good title for a show. I was more so thinking, this is exactly what I need. This is going to help me flick my brain onto a more positive path and say, hey, make it to midnight each day and you never know what the next day could hold. So that was something that helped me make it to midnight and helped me continue to make it to midnight all the way into the position I'm at now. But I don't sit here as probably like the classical stereotypical dude that does the inspirational motivational podcast, because I'm not a millionaire. I don't make six figures. I did just get married, which does make me rich, but I don't have all of the same materialistic type things as a lot of these speakers do out in this space. But I think that's the coolest part, because here we are sitting in Nashville, Tennessee, 2-bedroom apartment, recording it in the extra bedroom. In 5 years, who knows what it could all look like. It will not be a long show. It could be anywhere between 5 minutes to 20 minutes to an hour if we randomly have a guest on or whatever it is. But my number one goal is to keep it consistent, because I want to go a whole year. So I'm recording this on December 8th, 2024, December 8th, 2025. I want there to have been one episode every week. Maybe dropped on Sundays, maybe dropped on Mondays, one of the two, but I want an episode every week. Now, I can get into a little bit more personal background later on in other episodes, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and get into our first Make It to Midnight quote, something that has helped me make it to midnight. And I encourage you to send my Instagram page, send it to the email I'll have in the description of anything that has helped you make it to midnight, because I would love to share it and talk about it more on this channel. All right, this first piece that I'm going to be sharing with you guys is a poem called Bits and Pieces. This poem means a lot to me. I actually shared it at my rehearsal dinner, which was an emotional night. For anybody that's attended a rehearsal dinner knows that people say a lot of nice things about you, your significant other, and it puts you in an emotional state. And for me, you're also kind of think about the people that aren't able to be there with you. One of those people that was not able to be there with us was my uncle. He was a teacher. He taught all over the world. He impacted more lives than you'll ever know. Unfortunately, he passed during COVID when he was living in Myanmar. He got COVID there, and the healthcare system out there, the hospitals are dirty places, and it's probably one of the last places you want to be if you do get sick. And unfortunately, he did not make it out of that. But my family, my two older brothers, we loved him. He gave us our best Christmas presents. He had the best stories from traveling around, and his name was Uncle Bob. So Uncle Bob, he taught, like I said, all over the world. And on his Facebook page, one of the last things he had shared was this poem, because he had to do a Zoom for his class because of COVID and everything. And like I said, that poem is titled Bits and Pieces. So I will read it out to you guys right now, and I can even pull it up on the screen. Give me 1 second. Bits and pieces, bits and pieces. People important to you, people unimportant to you. Cross your life, touch it with love, and move on. There are people who leave you and you breathe a sigh of relief and wonder why you ever came into contact with them. There are people who leave you and you breathe a sigh of remorse and wonder why they had to go and leave such a gaping hole. Children leave parents, friends leave friends, acquaintances move on, people change homes, people grow apart. Enemies hate and move on, friends love and move on. You think of the many people who have moved in and out of your hazy memory. You look at those present and wonder. I believe in God's master plan in lives. He moves people in and out of each other's lives, and each leaves his mark on the other. You find you are made up of bits and pieces of all who have touched your life. You are more because of them, and you would be less if they had not touched you. Pray that you accept the bits and pieces in humility and wonder, and never question and never regret. Bits and pieces, bits and pieces. The number one part of this poem that I love so much of the poem, but the number one part I love of it is, you find you are made up of bits and pieces of all who have ever touched your life. You are more because of them, and you would be less if they had not touched you. The reason I like this so much is because it hits on everybody, even the people in our lives that we cannot stand. Ultimately, they have an impact of us, and they are a part of us. And hopefully, say if it's somebody that treated you wrong, you didn't take the way they treated you and implement it into how you treat others. On that reverse, if it's somebody that treated you well, hopefully you did take that and now you treat others well because of what that person did. It's one of the many things that I have found out in life that makes everything so much more connected than we may think, because it proves our number one enemy could have the same amount of impact. Doesn't mean it could be a negative one, but they have the same amount of impact as somebody positive. We have the opportunity to take whatever happens to us and hopefully twist it for the good. Heroes and villains have the same story, and that story originates in pain. Heroes use the pain, villains are used by pain. And it's that similar thing in this poem, in that line. At the end of the day, we're all bits and pieces in each other's lives. And with the internet, we're bits and pieces of each other's lives at a much larger scale. A comment you leave, liking a photo, sending a message, has a lot more repercussions than you might think when you are sending it. But that is the beautiful part of it all, because we do have an opportunity to make a positive difference in a lot of people's lives in a way that we never have had before. It also reminds me of a Lauren Daigle song that I love. If Lauren Daigle, she was number 3 on my Spotify Wrapped, but the song is called To Know Me, and it has the same sort of sentiment as this Bits and Pieces poem. It's basically, to know me, you have to know my friends. To know me, you have to know my neighbors. To know me, you have to know the people that I grew up with. To know me, you have to know the parents of the people I grew up with. Because we are a sum of all of these people that have touched our lives, good or bad. And that, I feel, is the Bits and Pieces poem. I've been wanting to share this poem with people for a long time. So now to do it, I feel relieved. I feel happier. And you got to cut me some slack, because I'm not used to talking to myself on the camera. And I'm going to get better at it. I promise you that. And since it's the first Make It to Midnight episode, I'm getting kind of more and more amped up as we've gone on throughout this 15 minutes, however long it's been. And I'm going to share one more thing before I wrap it all up. And this is called The Wave. I actually saw this on my brother's TikTok because I'm trying to help him run his page. He's a maniac with the animals, and there's no reason he couldn't be viral with it all. He has the personality. He's got the heart for the animals. He's got the knowledge. But I was running his TikTok, and he had sent this to himself. and I came across it, and it touched me. So I'm going to share it with you guys real quick. And when I first heard this story, it had that song, I am not the only traveler, in the background, so it made it even more emotional. One day, maybe I'll be able to license music, use it as I read these things to tug on the heartstrings even more. But nevertheless, here is the wave. A few years ago, I started running from work to the gym. During that run, I would always see an older gentleman sitting inside his screen porch, so I started waving at him. On my way there and on my way back, if I saw him sitting, I would wave. You'll learn I can struggle with reading sometimes. I stopped working out at lunch for a small period of time, but returned to my usual schedule. Last week when I was running, I didn't see him at all and didn't think really anything of it. But earlier this week, I had noticed visitors and cars there that I haven't seen before. So of course, I thought the worst. Today, as I was running, his wife was outside and she waved at me and waved to me to stop. I took off my earbuds and she said, "Your friend is going to be going soon," as she raised her eyes to the sky. I gave her my condolences as much as I could, but returned to my run. As I ran, I felt an overwhelming feeling to go in and see him. My condolence didn't feel like enough. I was running by the house and she was out walking around. I said, "Excuse me, is he awake?" She said, "Would you like to see him?" I said, "Of course." With her leading the way, I walked into this woman's home with her husband in his most vulnerable state, about to pass, about to leave his family and this life. Someone I just waved at, never spoke to, and never met. As I walked through the door, it was like I expected. Eyes closed, breathing machine in a peaceful room. He had a neighbor standing beside his bed, and she smiled at me, and I was taken back because it looked like she knew me, but I had no idea who she was. She said, the runner. He has told me all about his friend, the runner." I was choked up a little bit. I asked his wife what his name was. She responded, "Juan." I touched his hand that lay under the white cold sheet, eyes closed, morphine taking effect. I said, "Hi, Juan. I am your friend, the runner." She tried waking him up, spoke a little in English and Spanish to see if he would respond. Juan didn't respond with words, but he tried opening his eyes. He moved his head slightly to the left and right. I told Juan that I look forward to seeing him each day as I ran by for the past few years. I said I would pray for him and his family. He moaned and moved his head. I finished my visit by telling him I would continue to wave no matter what. I thanked her and walked out. As I was walking out, the neighbor was in the living room and she said that Juan always talked about me all the time, the runner, his friend. When he was sick, then got better, and he couldn't be out on the porch, he wanted to be by the window to wait for me as I ran by so he could wave. I remember a few weeks ago when I looked to the porch and didn't see him, I turned to continue running, but something caught my eye. He was waving through an open window. I waved back and remembered smiling the whole way back to the office. I am sharing because all it took was a decision to wave, to be nice, make someone smile. I never knew my wave made him feel the way he felt. Sometimes a wave is enough. As I'm reading that, for whatever reason, that one just always touches me because it's so simple. The wave. And I think so many times we get caught up. We think we have to be this big person. We have to make all this money. We have to have all these friends. We have to do all these things and have all these experiences in order for us to live a life that could mean something. When in reality, all it truly does take is a wave. And I think that's something that I know I'm guilty of, but probably the whole society as a whole, we don't wave to each other anymore. We don't smile at each other when we walk past. It's the weirdest thing, but it's all those small things that do make the biggest difference. I'm definitely going to challenge myself to wave more, to smile more to strangers, to do these small things that hopefully have an impact that we don't know could even touch, and to tie back to that bits and pieces. Like this story in the wave, he was just a small part, a small bit, a small piece of that person's life, because all he was doing was waving on his run by, but it affected the whole latter part of his life and his family, and gave that guy a reason to keep showing up to that window when he couldn't go outside and he was in his bed. It gave him a reason to keep showing up. And that's what I hope we can all do, is give each other reasons to keep showing up, to keep making it to midnight. So thank you for listening to this first episode. I'm excited to get these next ones rolling. to dive into some more books so I can start trying to learn some more things, fortify my mind, start living the better life, because I have a long ways to go in the person that I'm trying to be, and I'm hoping this show can even help me out to become that person. So thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on Make It to Midnight on all the social media. And thank you guys so much for tuning in.